Good evening, everyone. I hope you all had wonderful days. Let's head on into Collectively Rewilding. Oh, and I should have X'd out of this. Let me see if I need to save it first. No. So here we are in Collectively Rewilding, and I think everything has pretty well stayed the same since we were last together. Nothing new has changed, which is good. Keeping it a little bit more controlled of environment so that we can all enjoy what it is before there are any more changes, right? A lot of changes kind of going across the board for anything online with everything dealing with AI. So many interesting articles out there about it. Definitely something to keep on top of if you want to stay relevant, right? All right, guys. So speaking of, let's head into our garden planner and we're going to jump into November. I thought that it was completed. I wanted to go through and fine tune it. And then I found several sections where the topic had been kind of detailed, but not finished out. So there is still at least one more area that I need to do that for. And so what I'm going to do once I've gotten that completed, I'll print it all up again and break it down into 4 parts. And so there's a lot going on every month in our gardens. It doesn't feel like it when it gets colder and things like that. And of course, we don't probably want to spend quite as much time out there, though maybe some is still very satisfying, right? Depending on where you are. I don't think there are any huge snowfall areas, but you know, it's such a big area. Who knows? Benny, any snow your way? You're kind of up there in that northeastern area. Not yet, he says, right? All right, so that means that it's likely that any of the material that is in this month, you can still do as well, Benny. All right, we have not gotten, gosh, we can't seem to get the soil below 50 degrees here. It's going to go back up to 50 degrees after it cools off just a little bit from some rains, and then I think we might be truly entering into those colder temperatures to where the soil is going to actually remain between 50 and 40 degrees Fahrenheit, which matters quite a bit when you're determining what you want to do in your end of winter stage. All right. So with bulb planting, that absolutely does count. You want to wait until temperatures drop consistently below 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And this is something that I do when I can grab time between working in LH2 and doing all the things that we do here in Collectively Rewilding, plus life itself in general. And I grab those moments, it's just me in my head kind of working this out. So as we're kind of being told by employers, by business owners, by people that talk about the business world, by people that talk about employment, get familiar with this AI system. And I really do work well with Gemini. And so that's where a lot of this material is coming from. We go back and forth. I make sure it's aligned with the kind of principles that we would want to follow here as Collectively Rewilding, having healthy, functioning ecosystems that don't need a lot of chemical fertilizers or death in a bottle, right? Herbicide, pesticide, insecticide. You've heard all of these different terms. And of course, insecticide and pesticide, it's the same thing, but all of it means death in a bottle, right? And they say they're specific, and maybe some of them have gotten a little more targeted, but from my understanding, they all damage outside of what they're trying to protect from, right? So just something that we really strive to have a healthy functioning yard, a healthy functioning garden, which will limit the need for those chemical inputs, right? So this is all something that we've been working out. So the best part, I think, of the bulb area is the layered technique, okay? So cultivated garden beds, hybrid planting techniques, layering the bulb lasagna. I'd not ever heard of this lasagna term applied to bulb planting, but I really like it. And it really goes along well with what we talked about really recently, I can't remember which class it was, about the circle grid planting. I think several of you were here when we talked about that. Do you guys remember that? Just go ahead and throw a comment in there, Benny, or unmute yourselves. Anybody that was there and remembers talking about it. I can pull up the picture. I got all of my stuff cleaned up so that I could actually, go to what I wanted to when we were talking about all these wonderful things. And so here in the Gardenary overall system, this is a big one that Nicole Burke talks about. And it's one that I really love. And so you have this grid where she's got her largest plants that are going to require, looks like maybe even 1.5 or 2 feet for these biggest circles, or plates as she calls them. And then you come out and you have your medium size in a little eye, and then your smallest surrounding it, so that your whole planter is just filled with these wonderful, dense, living mulch. So when we talk about living mulch, like thyme or something like that, that creeping thyme that can grow where it's just a very low growing plant, this is different than that. It's more tending towards that canopy where you have small to medium to large plants in one planter, and they all work so well together when you do that. It also is something that you can use to incorporate the Gardenary pest system, right? We've talked about that several times in class, where she has her bouncers and her distractions, right? I can't remember. She comes up with these cute, clever little titles, but there are 3 layers of planting that you can do to protect the plants that you don't want the bugs to bother, to kind of draw their attention over to an imitator, some things like that, as well as having that living mulch that goes over the entire planter so there's no exposed soil. She doesn't care for wood chips, mulch of any type, right? So I'm going to test that out. I'm a huge fan and proponent of mulch. So I want to see, I'm taking her class in so many ways. I agree with her, but this is one that I just have a really strong preference for myself. So I want to compare the two, right? How can you really make a decision if you don't explore both options? So we'll do both of those here as we're doing the planters here in Collectively Rewilding. All right. And so what do you guys think? Is there anybody here that might want to throw a few bulbs out? It's a really good time of year, and you're doing something out in the garden to kind of still keep yourselves in the spirit without a lot of time commitment or anything like that, to have some spring color right away. Throw up your hand, throw a comment in there. Let's see. Benny says he loves the layout, right? And you could play with your circles, but that's just the layout that she utilized. And of course, it would be a really strong layout that you could always fall back on. And Benny would like to plant some bulbs. I keep wanting to, and yet, I have to be patient. It's just not where I'm at. And Candace, are you raising your hand because you'd be interested in planting some bulbs as well?
No, I have a question about it.
I would love to hear it.
So the soil has to be cold in order to plant it now.
So you are in Tennessee, correct?
Yes, it was 78 here.
Yeah.
We're not getting, we
So
don't
those
have
that
any
need a
cold
colder
weather.
period, it's interesting because I was actually working on this while I was getting ready, and just, I like to come and put myself in the Collectively Rewilding mindset before everything, right? Like I rush through Monday over in LH2 because it's such a busy day, as Benny and Tammy have some understanding of for sure, and then come in, get my mind wrapped around it. Let me try to find the area where you talk about, should be up in the bulb section. wonder if I cut it in half, maybe. I know that I had some other information in here about it, and now I'm not finding it, and that's
It's
frustrating.
because I'm asking.
Right, of course, but also because I just reorganized everything and I'm not finding it. So that might be something that, let me look here. That might help me just a little bit. When and where to plant. Okay. It's just the planting depth and everything, I guess, but there is additional information about why one would want to get a bulb cold. Okay, so what type of bulb need a cold period? Tulips, daffodils, hyacinths, crocuses. So most spring blooming types where you don't really necessarily reach the cold temperatures, especially for any kind of extended time, it might be better for you to put your bulbs into a refrigerated condition. Does that is that something that you could possibly do for, let's see, I want to say it's generally about 2 months. So how long does a typical spring bulb need stratification? I think that's a word, but they have it here, a cold period. So 12 to 16 weeks. So 3 to 4 months. So is there something, is there enough room in your refrigerator where you could keep a small bag of bulbs?
Yes, there is, but I have to figure out how to get the temperature to that.
Well, you should always have your refrigerator like at 41 degrees or lower. So,
Yeah, my refrigerator freezes everything, so
so
I'm
that won't
scared that
harm it. That's fine. It doesn't need to
okay,
be, it can be colder, right? Like people living in Alaska, people living in
okay,
Minnesota, they can go out before their ground freezes and plant that in the fall, and that will give it that cold. I'm pretty sure it's called stratification. It came to me right as I was doing it. They had a different word in here, and I had to go and look it up and make sure that it was accurate. They call it vernalization, and I wonder if stratification, cold stratification. Okay, so that's the same basic idea, and then they have vernalization. So I'm just curious. Let's do this. It might be that that's bulbs versus seeds, right? And it's
hmm
vern with a V.
hmm
I want to say with it, but okay. Vernalization induces flowering. Cold stratification breaks seed dormancy for germination. So I would guess that a lot of times it does have to do more with bulbs and seeds, but that's still just a guess. And so those are definitely two different types of words that have somewhat similar processes, at least, where you get that bulb, that seed through a prolonged period of cold. And they actually, yep, 12 to 16 weeks, so 3 to 4 months. And then,
Sounds good.
right? And then another thing, and this is what I meant to say, and I got totally distracted, is this bulb lasagna planting method where you have your bottom layer and you go really deep, plant your largest, latest blooming bulbs like daffodils and large alliums being in your onion family. And they can produce really neat looking flowers. They're not gorgeous or sensational or anything, but they're very neat and we actually like them. They have a poofy effect of a lot of little smaller flowers. And then your middle layer, you have medium-sized bulbs like tulips, and your top layer or shallowest would be crocus or grape hyacinth, right? And so you wouldn't want to plant them too close. You want to give them all a little bit of room, but you could arrange them either largest to smallest or scattered, different sizes. All of that is completely up to your own imagination. But I thought that that would be a really pretty organization to have. So something to think about. And so where you're having to save room in your refrigerator, you might either want to pick small packages of different types of bulbs or one big bulk package of one type of bulb for, you know,
Okay.
room purposes in your refrigerator, right?
Well, I have a refrigerator that's mine's, and I have one that's for my boys, and they tend to raid their refrigerator a lot, so I have plenty of space. Yeah, so it's fine. I have plenty of space.
I don't have to worry about it most of the time here in Utah, but 4 months, I don't know if I can provide that. I can definitely provide a solid 2.5, I'll say, generally, right? But it might not be
Well,
quite
see,
long
I
enough for
have
something.
well, see, I have two full-size refrigerators, three deep
Mhm.
freezers,
Oh,
and I
goodness.
have the like dorm room refrigerators in each room.
Okay, gotcha.
So
Mhm.
I have enough space where they can sit in there for 16 weeks. It won't be a bother.
That's awesome. Well, this is a good time to go and pick a couple of bulk, pick some small ones, pick one bulk, whatever works better for you, and get a head start on next year. And then you can kind of force plant them. Let's actually look that up. Okay, that's something totally outside of my experience. I can pretty much just throw them in the ground, right? Generally. So in a temperate, well, in a consistently warmer planting zone, when when is the best time for planting bulbs? Okay, late winter to January, after they've received the mandatory chilling period of 8 to 10 weeks. So you can definitely get them in, and then it would be right at the end of January. You could get them out into the ground and have blooms that year. I just wanted to double check because I'm used to
Okay,
having to get them
cool.
into the season before, right? Mhm.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Is there any way that you can send it to me?
I can definitely copy this for you. And is that just your timing and all of that? Like, because it has both,
Mm-hmm.
right? It has the chilling period and the time to plant them. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. And we'll grab everything that they have here.
Okay.
And so, and that's AI overview. Pop in over here. I know I have an open one somewhere. Okay, this will work. So, here in discussion. Bulb vernalizing, we'll say. Get used to that word. And planting instructions for a warmer climate. All right. And then we'll put Gemini and Coast. So that will be right there for you. And they're doing this weird
Mm-hmm.
thing and it's jumping you around. I don't know if you guys have experienced it. We're experiencing it too. I just posted it here in Plan Your Wild workshop, but it jumped me over to scheduled posts where I just was. And the only place I've been able to find a new post is by going to what's new today. It doesn't show up in the space I put it in. So there's some weird algorithm glitch that they have going on in Mighty Networks. Hopefully they will fix it sooner rather than later, but just be aware, guys. I apologize for
Oh, that's okay.
A
Thank you.
weird presentation. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So that was awesome. So I feel like really what that told me is that talking through these sections is going to automatically generate a lot more questions for you guys. What do you think about that thought?
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I appreciate the talking through it
Good.
because it allows me to understand, process, and ask questions and get an understanding at the same time.
It's wonderful. So I'm definitely going to have to think about it a little bit, how to present it. Maybe we read like 15 minutes of it. And then, of course, build that into it. If there's a question about what's being read about, go ahead and just shout it out, just really interrupt what's being read and say, hey, I'm sorry, I have a question, or excuse me, I got a butt in, however, whatever is more comfortable, and get that question about what's being covered right then so you don't forget, right? I'm
Oh,
sure.
sound good.
Wonderful. All right. So do you guys like this? Does this feel like a really productive way to move forward for everyone?
It is for me.
Anyone else? Let's see if Benny's got anything there in the chat. Stratification. Yeah. So sometimes you even cut into them, I think. And so there's definitely some tricks of the trade that you don't necessarily know of until you start immersing yourself into the topic, right? All right, everybody's being quiet tonight. So I'm really excited about it, guys. I really feel like it's going to help me a lot too. I know the things that need to be done, but I'm running around so crazy busy all the time. I can't keep myself in the right structure for my day if I don't already have a list ready to go. So another piece that I'd really like to get done is to create weekly checklists along with breaking these up into 4-week lessons so that we can actually really try to accomplish the pieces within that lesson that each of us want to do, right? There'll be pieces within almost every lesson that I think you will want to do and that you probably won't want to do. So that's really the beauty of it. We get to design our own rewilding journey, our own garden, whatever we view that as. Each of us gets to make their own individual process because there's more than one way to do things. Even when you're trying to go towards a more natural approach, there's still more than one way to do things. And I really want everybody to feel in charge of their own journey in their garden, in their yard, in the outdoor space, in their windowsill garden, right? I want everybody to just completely feel confident and comfortable approaching a new process. Not that we're always going to succeed, but that we really know what it is that we need and what we're trying to do in any given moment, and that we have the best likelihood of success anytime we try something new, right? I think that's all anyone could ask for. And I think it will help, like I said, for me, keep me in line. Oh my gosh, if I don't get those seeds out right now, my window is gone because it is setup, timing, and maintenance, right? So I'm going to be working on a lot of setup myself over the next little bit. We have to move some of the wood that was cut down from the silver birch and aspen into a new part of the yard and just shove all of that soil back in. We're not even probably going to worry about moving it around. At this point, we're going to be done with it. We'd like to be done with it. Since it can't be what we wanted it to be, we'd like to move on. So we're just going to shove all of that dirt back in. We're going to add some just thin, unmodified, not really trimmed or anything, still have leaves clinging to them, thin branches that don't have a whole lot of use otherwise, as a full layer along this 4-foot deep bed, right? I won't make it compact, but it will be pretty solid. Most of the roots won't need to go beyond that. We're not planning on putting any trees in that area or anything like that. So we're also going to build raised beds up on top of it, which will end up giving it probably around 6 to 5 feet, right? Just depending. We just roughed in the Wally Peony pit, and so now we're going to shove it all back in, and it'll be a nice solid double dug bed with raised beds on top of it. And right at the very bottom, there will be this layer of Hugel Coulter material. It'll take quite a while for it to actually get that water into it because it's so deep down. But once it does, it'll just continuously release that water, and it will be easier for it to get fully saturated after it does reach that full saturation point, right? And so from my understanding of Hugel Coulter, it'll take anywhere from 2 to 3 years in a dry area, like what this is. But we do have some really nice spring deluges. So I'm hoping that perhaps it'll be more towards that too, or maybe even in a year and a half. Then we'll start filling it in and throw some scattered, big, nice, fat chunk pieces in, probably only about 2 feet long, and just scatter those throughout the whole double dug bed. Continue to fill that in, get that finalized. That will get mulch on it because that's not what Nicole Burke is talking about, not your ground level. There you want to put some sort of grass cover or fine gravel or tiles or walkways with sand, right? There's a bunch of different options that we've even gone through when we were showing the different examples that Gardenary has provided, right? And so that will just get covered with the mulch and clover seed, just like all of the rest of the yard. And then we'll move on from there. So this coming week, we've got to get that wood moved. I've got to get the final clover and grass down. It's finally probably cold enough. I don't think any of it will germinate. Fingers crossed. It does get awfully warm, sometimes even in the middle of winter. So hoping it doesn't germinate, putting grass and clover seed down, moving all that wood, getting that pushed in. Then we'll start the process of building out the raised beds, both for the double dug bed and for the raised beds in the side yard and front yard, right? So lots of stuff to come. We'll definitely be recording it all and sharing it with you guys. I'm probably going to have some of those episodes where we go live so that you guys can ask questions about it, the quieter moments, right? Not necessarily drilling or sawing or running oh my goodness, an electric screwdriver, any of those kinds of things. But for the quieter moments, bringing you guys along and doing fun things like that, it's going to be busy here. This is a great time for you guys to do anything like that you've been thinking about as well. And it doesn't need to be huge like what we're doing here. In fact, I highly recommend that you don't start huge. Right now, Kendez, I don't think he's here with us tonight, but Kendez has some already created areas. And if you have something like that, fabulous. Clean it up if it needs it, get it ready to go, or create something small like that. Daryl and Tammy put together a nice new raised bed. They cleaned up all of their side beds along their house, and they are just ready and raring to go. And of course, totally different climate, but they are able to grow plants longer as well, like we were talking about with Candace. So tons of fun things that you can still do right now. Anybody else wanting to get out there and plant some bulbs, or maybe think about putting in a small gardening area, anything like that?
Well, I got a question. Do I need to test my soil before while they in the fridge, processing in the fridge? Do I need to test my soil to make sure that my soil does attack them when I plant them?
I think that from what I understand about Tennessee, you've got some pretty nice soils. So unless you're worried about something that's happened since it was, built to be a home, then I think that you're probably great. Of course, it's always good to test your soils. I'm never going to recommend against it. And you can sometimes get it done for free at your county co-op, right? We talk about that all the time, your county extension offices. Find out if there's a free or low cost option to get your soils tested. Bulbs they have their specificities. They don't want to have a lot of standing water. They need to be planted a lot more deeply than any seed that you typically come across. some things like that. And of course, they'll need fertilization from natural styles of fertilizer, like we talk about here, but they're not extraordinarily picky. And you're not dealing with desert soils or high alkalinity, probably, or anything like that. So bulbs they're pretty tough little guys. I would think that you probably would be okay. And absolutely, if you're interested in testing your soil, go for it. Does that answer your
Okay.
question?
Yes. So what about, have you ever heard of them thriving or dying in the red clay soil?
Mm, clay soil can be difficult. So if you're dealing with clay soil, let's just look it up because I have not ever dealt with clay soil on a consistent basis. I've definitely been around some clay soils. You can find them out in the mountains and things like that too, but it's more limited over here, right? So bulb planting in heavy clay soil, we'll say the clay soil. I had it there for a second. All right. Yes. To plant bulbs in heavy clay soil, amend the soil with organic matter like compost or aged manure to improve drainage. Dig a large, deep hole. So you already have to dig a pretty large, deep hole to plant the bigger bulbs, right? So if we go back over here to our planner and we look at these, the largest are going to like, let's see, this is the wrong area for that, right here. Okay, the large bulbs like a daffodil or tulip need to go 6 to 8 inches deep, and they're big. That's about the size of some other bulbs that I got, so they can get really big, and you want it to be 2 to 3 times the depth of whatever size it is. So if it's a smaller bulb, because they do have them that are only, maybe a half an inch, then you want at least an inch to an inch and a half depth. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right. And so you will probably want to go a decent way beyond that, fill it back in with some compost, maybe enlarge it a little bit too. Not a tremendous amount. They're going to more grow down, the roots are, but give it a deep hole. So if you're planting something big and you wanted to go 6 to 8, we'll just say 7 to average it out. I would add maybe another 5 inches if you were able to, at least, or more. And then add that compost, that different type of aged manure, the topsoil, whatever different products, right? The topsoil is less sustainable. Compost and aged steer and chicken manure are much better sustainable options. But whatever you decide on, you want to go down quite a lot more. So let's just look at the wording that Google utilized. Dig a large, deep hole. Do this in a wider area than just the planting hole to improve drainage over time. And one of the things that I've seen when people are planting bulbs that they do after you've had a little bit of experience, you might want to level out a little bit of an area and then make a pattern of them, even if it's a random pattern. One of the rewilding strategies in the planner is if you have a little area that is more rewilded than formal, you kind of just toss up your bulbs and wherever they land, dig the hole and plant them there to give it that meadow-like feel. I thought that was really a cute idea too, right? So there's lots of different things. Also, it says to break up the heavy clay soil to create a more hospitable environment for root growth. So whatever depth you dig it down to, also just kind of stick that shovel or that trowel or whatever you're using and get it even a little more loosened around it to help it break into the clay itself. My husband doesn't really enjoy it when I come up with digging projects because he knows that he'll end up doing a large portion of that digging.
That sound like Mr. Darrell and Tammy.
Mhm. Mhm. Definitely. Very similar in that regard. Very similar. And he always tells me, Sabrina, you make these plans, but you have no idea what it actually means to do it in the real world. And I have some idea. I always have a reasonable idea, but the nitty gritty, getting it done, finite detail that absolutely has to be taken care of, length of time, amount of struggle, etc., etc. No, I'm probably not as knowledgeable about those types of tool usages and things, right? I can definitely go out and I can dig a hole or any of those things, but he's done a lot more of that. So he ends up getting a little bit frustrated with me sometimes, and I can understand why. So that's what you want to do. So you might want to start with some of the smaller bulbs, Candace. I think that that would be a really good thing for any of us that want to do this, right? I'm not quite there. I'm still going to be doing so many different things that I don't know exactly how it's all going to lay out. I don't want to put something in that might end up getting torn up if I change what I think right in that moment when I'm not ready to actually finalize anything. So these smaller ones, though, crocus or grape hyacinth, they only need to be 3 to 4 inches deep. So 3 to 4 inches deep, put it at 3.5 inches, give it another 3.5, maybe 5 inches, and then work the soil around that after you get down to that 5 inch or wherever kind of level. And let's see, it would be more like 8.5, right? So 8.5 inches, something like that. Dig down, loosen that up, fill it back up about 5 inches if that's the measurements that you use. Then put your bulbs in. You want to make sure the point is towards the top and the flat part is towards the ground. And it can be, it has a texture that is on that flat bottom part, and that's where your roots are going to come. Some have more, some have less. And so you point it with the pointy top part up and then cover the rest of it up with your compost or other type of soil that you're going to help that clay soil out with, right? All right. Anyone else? Any thoughts? Any questions? All right. Well, I do really feel like this is a lot more productive. It really gives us a place to start our conversations from, right? Where I am still in the base stages of getting everything that I want done here, while we've definitely gone leaps and bounds from where we started, it's hard for me to discuss the timing on all of these things when I'm not actively engaged in it myself without that piece there. And now, of course, as we go into this portion of the year and into next year, I'm ready to do a lot of it. Bulbs are a little bit beyond me, but that's what's so nice about the gardenary system in general, right? Starting smaller. So this week, I would also love to find some time to get ready for at least microgreens. Sprouts to some are easier, but it's a daily commitment in a little bit different way to me than growing something in the soil. So I want to get one of those started hopefully this week and have that for you guys as that example. And then we can watch it and talk about it if anybody's really hesitant on getting it started, or we can just kind of talk about the topic in general, whatever everybody ends up needing as that support for their moment, right? And so lots of things to come and lots of fun things to still do if you are like me and you always want to be doing something with nature. All right, let's go ahead and jump into our CR calendar. And that will be tomorrow that we're coming together again for Let's Quit Together. And that will be at 2:00 p.m. Pacific, 3:00 p.m. Mountain, 4:00 p.m. Central, and 5:00 p.m. Eastern. Hope to see you guys all there. And any final thoughts? Anyone? Please, Miss Candace.
Did you start reading on the planning thing so you can go to the meeting when they have it next?
Oh, no, we'll do that on Wednesday if nobody else has anything that they want to work on. We'll start putting together a little outline of the things I want to pay attention to, and if I get a chance, questions I might want to ask, all those kinds of things, and just think about it, see if maybe there's any recordings in the material that you found, Candace, to see if we could kind of watch how it goes down a little bit to better inform our thoughts as we finalize a plan to walk into next week, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay.
And it's
Well,
really
I
neat
know
that
it's
it's on
probably
the
the
same day.
holiday
Oh,
time.
say it again?
It's probably the holiday time, so they probably
Yeah.
going on shutdown. So
I'm hoping they're open. Thank you for reminding me. It's the day before Thanksgiving, right? They may not have
Yeah.
a meeting that week. So I'll
Yeah.
definitely find out about that before Wednesday.
Okay. And then the other question, did you check your mailbox and see if they sent you anything?
I haven't today, but I did yesterday, and there wasn't anything. So I do need to go in. I have barely gotten through my own emails yet today.
Okay.
So thank you
Well,
for reminding me.
I hope they hurry up and send it. That sucks. Everybody else getting their stuff and you got in the mix of the shutdown.
I hope that other people that need it worse in a timely kind of fashion get it before I do, because we're going through all of this and we're tearing through Megan's brain to get those lists. And it's really going to benefit all of us so much to take this pause where we don't have an action step that we're working right now and get some action steps planned out for after we go through the initial 10 of starting a nonprofit, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, thank you though. I appreciate it. I am not too worried about getting it. The only thing I worry about is the CRF, right? If they don't like it, but they let me do collectively rewilding as CR, and Colorado Rockies just alone is a huge name, and they use CR all the time, more often than they would
Mm-hmm.
ever write it out as far as at least caps and things, right? So
Right.
yeah. All right. Anyone else? Me and Candace, we're just kind of having a conversation tonight. All right, guys. It is kind of late, but a lot of fun. I will have it more together for us by next Monday. And if I find time, I may just do an impromptu session. Thank you, Benny. I really love having these conversations with you guys as well. Um, have an extra one just because we're running out of time and it is the last kind of time to really work in the soil for a lot of us. So if I find time, I may throw out an extra one just to help us kind of formalize this process, see where we're at, put a little bit of pressure on me to get them broken into the 4 groupings so that they can really be utilized. The next step, of course, getting those checklists. And so this is all just prep for when we're really well into it next year, because we're going to start off running where we're already doing this, already used to it, already having some success with our microgreens or our sprouts or our salad in a single pot, right? That's another thing that you can do inside that we're going to talk about over the next little bit. There's so much to read and so much to do. I feel like we should have more get togethers, and yet I know none of us have more time. So I'll probably have to share some of those articles and then we'll pick which ones we want to read over this next little bit, because the salad in a single pot, where I really like working in the soil, is really intriguing for me. And while I want to start off with the microgreens for you guys, because I think that's just more generally approachable, I'd really love to show at least both of those, right? We all do our own journeys, and sprouts, I'm going to try, but it's really hard for me to make that commitment of rinsing them every day. My children handle the kitchen, and so I'm just not in there all the time. So that's why we want to, each of us, really think about what works for us. Don't be pressured into anything that you don't want to enjoy doing, right? All right, everybody. Very cool. Please feel free to unmute and say goodnight, everyone.
Good
Night.
night. See y'all later.
I hope you have a great week. Everybody's super
You as well.
quiet. Tammy's even quiet. She might have fallen asleep. Oh, and Candace,
Yeah.
you were able to join in.
Mm-hmm.
Terry gotta say her voice. She got another class in a minute.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
there you go. She does too. All right. Well, we'll wrap it up so that we can get her ready over there. And thank you to everyone, Benny, and to my husband and my mother and Miss Vanessa, Tammy, and Candace. I think I got everybody there. You guys are all amazing. And I'm really looking forward to tearing through this planner with you and hearing what will help each of you, right? Because, like I said, there's going to be this group of us, and each of us are in different climates, and each of us have different wants. So that's going to really help to inform what will be really useful for a large group of people, because we already represent a very large breadth of diversity with climate and interests, or time commitments, space commitments, all these things, right? All
Right.
right. Sorry, guys, I get so excited. I started up again. Okay, bye, guys. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.